today, the May 30, 2023. Last time was 2 weeks ago, because last week I didn't have access to internet. I had internet, but my computer was blocked from accessing internet because Microsoft decided that they had found a malware on my machine, and my machines, because their domain joined, were blocked from accessing internet. Even my other machines, which are also domain joined. And it took like 2 or 3 hours for me to get back internet to understand that there was no malware. It was just some detection of command lines I typed that they thought were started by a malware. So no meeting last week. We got triage though, because it was fixed. What did we see 2 weeks ago? Mike made a demo about multi-factor authentication. It was merged. There is a video on YouTube I saw. Sipke talked about enzyme workflow. We'll know more tomorrow. The topics today demos. Is there any demo?
I would have something like that, more of an announcement.
Okay. Topics. Please harvest.
I think we have all said there. We are all said there.
We'll see if there's any question. Then status option 1. Lots of commits from BodyText. I should make a filter just to hide all the things it has, so you can see what's happening otherwise. So if I look at Fontawesome, when did we merge? Since 17 on Fontawesome, BodyText. One and Matteo changed loader and seller the case for lazy themes of LocalizationPart. I think it's to optimize LocalizationPart. It's just about performance changes, performance optimizations from Matteo. This week's I need dictionaries to memorize results of queries and avoid repeating them. Adding missing module dependency. This was from the previous PR, but these two from performance perspective. If I add the dev branch BodyText, this is that security removing the property from passwords to entry, guaranteed. Azure test fixing app from version and some mutants of JSON package of my path, update target framework in EBC, and empty compiler workflow to build of in the current testing branch. So some new scripts use GitHub Actions is to test it. Okay. So BodyText actively working on seeing the test using GitHub Actions, merging one the next, then doing everything. Sure. Object core since 16.
Yeah. By the way, one thing about the GitHub Actions will, one thing that BodyText I think will do there, and probably a concept that we can also do in the Orchard core builds, is that when a pull request is approved, then only then we launch certain builds, like the Windows builds in Orchard core or with Orchard core is are the slowest. Ubuntu is fast, but Windows is like twice as long. We could only launch these when somebody hits approve. So with the branch protection rules that can be still enforced, so you can't merge a pull request without that running, but at least we are not wasting time, computing time on that. And the feedback loop is also shorter because people submitting pull requests don't need to wait for this to finish.
I'm talking about option 1 or 4?
What I mentioned is that Benedek will do something similar in Orchard 1. There aren't Ubuntu builds, of course, because it's .NET framework. But he will do something similar, I think, for the functional tests. But the concept we can use with Orchard Core as well to only run certain workflows, certain GitHub Actions jobs when a pull request is approved.
Okay. Well, I think we just run what we need right now for it's approved. Like we don't run the functional test.
Yeah, so currently there's a Linux and a Windows build. Both of them are run for every commit or every push rather, and we run functional tests just manually. Yeah, I think we should at least change the Windows builds to run only on approve, and perhaps also run the functional tests on approve.
But then we won't have like when it's merged.
No, really. When you on GitHub you can approve a pull request,
but it's just for new contributor.
It's for every pull request. So before merging, you can signal that the pull request is all right. Yeah, if you go to files changed, the files tab.
I see what you. Okay, I didn't know that you could have a workflow that just triggers when it's approved. Oh, I see. It's okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Good to know. But then, so you need approve, and then the checks will. So it might still require some checks that will only be run when it's approved.
Yeah, the point here is not to run the slow ones for every commit, because then, well, the person working on that also has to wait for all of these slow ones, but still run them at least once before merging. So in case they do fail, then, well, the pull request goes back to the author.
About the argument, the slow ones waiting for them and not having to wait for them, I think it's a wrong argument, because if you don't run them, then you will never see the result. So why are you still waiting for them if you don't care about the result? If you care about the result, you will need to run them. If you don't care and they run, you don't have to wait for them. So it's not blocking anything.
Well, the point here being is that there's a high chance that you won't break the Windows build if the Linux build passes. So we don't really need to run the Windows build all the time.
So that's something that the ASP.NET team, for instance, does. Like, oh, this is actually the opposite. Like when you have PRs and they work on Windows and Linux, then when it's merged, it's only built against one of them, because we know that to get there, it had to be done on both, for instance. That's different way of thinking. Another comment also, something that we have configured is that if you have 10 commits, if the build is not done while you add a new commit, then it will cancel the previous build and start the new one. So it's not a build for each commit if you are very quick. It is a build on each commit if they are separate. If they are like, if there is a time lapse of 10 minutes, let's say, take 10 minutes at least. And that's okay, because I mean, you want to see the result of your commit, so that's okay. So the thing you say is that don't use like Windows until we say approve, and let's check. Okay, it should pass also Windows. Interesting. And then we could also extend that to more things, like because it's approved, let's do some longer checks. Okay, that's done.
Yep, and the cool thing is that with the mentioned branch protection rules, we can still enforce all of these checks to pass before a pull request can be merged. And not just that, but we can, when somebody approves a pull request and says that, the reviewer then says that, okay, now I want to merge this, they can also tell GitHub to merge it immediately when these checks pass. So even the reviewer doesn't need to wait for the slow ones.
Okay, just so far, I don't think it has been an issue to have to wait for the two of them. But if we can, like, we don't go over the budget of anything right now. If we can skip it just for the last step, that's fine. Okay. I look at how you do that, the approved workflow. I like to see that. I've never seen that. Then going back to the status for Orchard Core this time. So I believe we saw that last time, 16 updates, mkdocs. Should I assume that? SDK. Here is back adding XML part model access with Liquid. Oh yeah, we merged that on Thursday. Adding this class to the member strategy so we can use that in the Liquid templates. GroupId check should be case insensitive, so changing everywhere GroupId is used to be checked in a case insensitive way, because you might have links that use case insensitive representations of the GroupId, and then you want to match them still. So everywhere GroupId was used is now checked this way, so it won't be able to change. What is this big change I saw here? The check. Okay. The PR from Mike about two-factor authentication discussion we had, and I commented on the PR. I didn't check notification if you answered that, Mike. The fact that nowhere in the SPNet source code they are actually logging the user IDs, like that's something we talked about on the
yeah, I think they do in the CRUD. Because I think that I was referencing a project that was created using the code generator. I think that's where I see the logs, but not in the framework directly. But anyway, in Orchard Core, we don't log that information.
If you can point me to the code that generates it in SPNet, I will ask some people in the team if that makes sense. Maybe nobody's seeing that because it's generated code and it doesn't appear directly in the source code. So maybe
I'll first confirm that's the case. I was looking at the project. I think it was created using it, but I'll definitely try a new project.
At fixing functional test merge. So the issue was first, so the runner is back to what it was. The main issue was that this thing here needs to install .NET. When we apply the change to say that the base images when you use GitHub Actions or like Ubuntu and Windows have .NET already installed. So what we had done was to remove the step to include .NET because it was unnecessary when we migrated to 7.0 version of .NET. However, these functional tests here, the base images are not Ubuntu and Windows base images. They are something like Selenium base images, which don't have .NET. So we should not have removed these steps. We actually found the issue. And then some tests failed to work with MySQL because of the new default size of MariaDB or whatever limit of the index size, and now it's no more 740, it's 735. So we have to change some names of the indexes. Existing one will still work with the versions you are using, and it's just modifying the migrations for the new setup. So if you have a new setup, it will use a smaller index name. Index name. it's a colon size that is indexed and then that fails because the colon can't be more than that length to be indexed. This will be fixed. Thank you, Chancery, for fixing the function tests. Fixed list icons. Okay. jQuery 370. That's not often that we update jQuery. It's good. Just saying that maybe it's done later on, but Antoine is here. Looking at the changes here, I can see that the versions have changed, the URLs have changed for jQuery, but the SHAs have not changed. It's worrying. Usually when the file changes, the content changes, unless there is absolutely no change in these files. It's just that they want to align the versions with the jQuery. That's possible. That would be weird, right? Like if I open this file and there is in this file one reference to the version itself, that breaks the SHA. Type enter. And exactly 370, here I see 370. So the content of this file has changed. So this SHA should have changed, and probably this one too. So I believe it won't work unless there is a commit later on that you will find out. Relabel 2FA to two-factor authentication for consistency. Okay. Top-level multi-tenancy. I think this was talked a long time ago. Fontawesome 640. This one was updated. This one was broken apparently from a long time. Docs Fontawesome local resources. Okay, when you work locally or when you can't access the CDN. Or locally, when you work without internet and you can't access the CDN, when CDN is blocked in your country, for instance. The theme AdminMenu style in RTL, so that's good. OpenIddict 440. Email text. Yes, someone found breaking change and fixed it in a recent PR to me. And a script, I believe, to clean up the LinkedIn node. So scripts for NPM stuff and for gulp stuff. So you can clean your assets and stuff. New command. Clean up. AdminMenu to check list content permissions instead of IsListable, so checking the correct permission for listing content. Remove localization abstraction reference from localization module. Okay, actually, so yes and no, actually. We merged it, but semantically it might be incorrect. This module here, localization, this is a module. It's using the core project, localization core project, which itself probably is referencing localization.abstraction. But it may be that this module here project core localization, the module itself. There is the project here, the project there, and the module here. Maybe the module is actually using some of the abstractions, but it's getting it transitively through localization.core. Semantically, it's more correct to say, let's reference localization abstractions because this thing needs it explicitly. Today, it's available through this one, but it still needs it. So if tomorrow, for instance, we don't need this one anymore, and we say, let's remove it, we'll have to add this one back. So it's kind of better, I'd say, to keep it because we actually depend on that directly. It's not because this one also depends on that we need to remove the reference. So this will not have hurt actually to keep it. There is no advantage of removing this, I believe. The only thing that happened there with that is we had to talk about it and think about is it necessary or not. That's the only conclusion of this change. Reordering, no, refactoring. What is that? FeatureEventHandler base class, or creating a base class for an interface so we can just override what we need instead of implementing everything, I believe. FeatureEventHandler class, this one. So should it be abstract? Okay. No, it's not abstract. Okay, it's a class. Okay. I see. It's not abstract. So you can override anything you need. Okay. So these are public. We might think about putting them sealed. Nobody can inherit from them, but I don't expect people from wanting to inherit from them, and they can always copy the code from that and create their own. Making them sealed will make them faster. Maybe no impact, but that's something that is done in most of the estimate. So, like when we don't expect people to inherit from them, first, we don't have to make them public. We can keep them internal or private to the project. Second, we can make them sealed. Okay, fixed AzureAd case match. Build from Alex Jensen, maybe a new contributor. We'll see. Yes, it is. CommonPart docs, because someone asked on Twitter, how do you do something? And we suggested to use the CommonPart options, and they didn't know because it was not documented. So Sham documented it. Update ImageSharp.Web. Add Alex Jensen as contributor. Update on the website. Fixing some packages. npm audit fix. Okay, security updates. Fix casing for SmtpEncryptionMethod amendment release. Oh, yes. That can't work. Oh no, that can work. It's just the casing was weird in the first place. It will not have compiled otherwise. Okay. Oh, that's just a minute. Okay. We'll go logo. The new file logo. Where? What is the file? At the root? Logo. Okay. I think you also want to get a folder with assets. Maybe you also have that in docs. Okay, docs update, adding demo videos. The docs. And manage sources button next to sitemap. Okay, moving stuff around. Good. That's just a minute. For some questions, comments.
I just confirmed the code generator actually logs the ID. I sent you that link. If you follow the instructions there in that project, you will see it. But I don't think it's harmful here because it's your personal project. You do whatever you want with it. It's just part of the default implementation.
Yeah, people copy it and deploy it. That's the issue. Okay, I will. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, log warning, log information. Yeah, I see. Okay, thank you. Then I'm clicking the link that sometimes shared online on the chat, sorry, to have the workflow running on PR.
Oh yeah, just note the pull request review trigger at the top.
Interesting.
And, yes.
I see. So you still trigger for everything, but then there is a condition to start the job. Okay.
Yeah. This can be a bit cleaner if you separate the jobs into multiple workflows, but we have everything in one because there are overlaps.
Thank you. Okay. I like it. Questions, comments, topics, Zoltan, demo, topics, harvest, whatever. What is that?
Let's have the demo.
Demo.
Yeah, or yeah, it's more like an announcement as mentioned. So there is well, there is Red Hat to begin with. I don't think anybody needs that introduced. And they also have their ecosystem catalog, which is pretty much a catalog of various software, platform, all kinds of things built on top of the Red Hat, what Red Hat provides. And by that I mean, at the very basics, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and they also have their containers. They also have their cloud hosting stack and everything as well. So this is a catalog of software that plays along their platforms. So if you go there, you will see that, well, there's a lot of stuff here, but for us .NET developers, I don't think there's much familiar here. These are like lower level cloud / hosting / server management applications mostly. There are some blog and CMS systems as well, though, what you can see here. Here, by the way, I haven't seen any familiar ones either, but I figured I got to know about this catalog a couple of months ago, and I figured that, well, we should really have Orchard here because this should be a low-hanging fruit, Orchard should be compatible with Red Hat Enterprise Linux at least. And well, if we have it here, then that's one more channel where people can find Orchard. And I would presume that the Red Hat community doesn't have too big of an overlap with the Orchard community, so these would be new people. So that's why I created this issue, getting Orchard into that catalog, and I worked towards this. So now we have Orchard core here. This wasn't as trivial as it might seem because of this, and because of this certification section here. To get into this catalog, you are not just creating a profile for your company and for your software, or in this case, for the Orchard community and for Orchard core, but rather, apart from that, you also have to certify your software. Pretty much make sure it actually runs properly under Red Hat Enterprise Linux or the other Red Hat platform that you select. And I did that. This was a fairly complex process, mostly because I don't really know, well, Red Hat Enterprise Linux to begin with, but I also have very little knowledge of managing a Linux server as well. But how this works, I documented as well, and now we have Orchard certified here. For the documentation, I created a pull request, so it's not yet merged, so just showing a preview of the documentation page here. Here is it, how you would do it. Yeah, most of the hardship here really came from me not knowing how to manage a Linux server and how to manage Orchard under a Linux server. But well, once you know what to do, it's really not that hard, as you can see from this list. So Orchard now is in the Red Hat Enterprise catalog, or sorry, Red Hat ecosystem catalog. It's certified for Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So it certifies as a standalone application. It could also be certified as a containerized application, but that's not about Docker, but some kind of other system called Podman. I didn't want to venture into that. So for now, Orchard is only certified as a standalone app. Supposedly, when we release new versions of Orchard, or if there is a new version of Red Hat Enterprise Linux, then this needs to be done again. But this is not a requirement, really. Orchard will still remain in the ecosystem catalog, even if you don't do anything after this. Yeah, that's it. I think this is cool, and I hope it will also be useful in growing our community.
Thank you. Yeah, my concern on the issue was will we do that, update the versions when there is an update to do and recertify, republish, keep it up to date. Worst case being there is a security patch and it's actually pointing to a flawed version of Orchard. So if we have to update the certification or to remove it, to say don't use this version because there is a security issue with this one, use the new one. And usually that when you have a security patch to deploy, you don't want to have more ways to publish things, so you have more work to deploy the patch. That's my concern.
Yeah, that's fair enough. While the certification actually is for a given Red Hat and a given Orchard version, the Orchard version is not indicated here. So this is just a listing for Orchard core. In general, it doesn't point to any specific Orchard core version.
So how do you use that? From when you go to this page, like, oh, magic, there is Orchard, I'm a Red Hat user. How do you use that?
You would continue with one of the links here. That's why you have the.
So there is nothing special integrated with that. It's just say you can use Orchard on Red Hat.
Yeah, this is a catalog and a listing. It's not like an app store.
How did you prove to them that it actually runs? Did they provide you an instance of their software and ask you to install it? Or did you have to create your own instance and share it with them? Just wondering how that worked.
Mm-hmm. The certification itself is a mostly automated process. Pretty much you have to have a Red Hat Enterprise Linux instance, so they are not providing that, and you have to run an application that they provide. I don't know exactly what it does, but from the outside, it seems to me that it does some basic checks about compatibility and whether our software breaks anything in Linux. It doesn't check the behavior of Orchard core itself, of course. That I check manually. So I did some smoke testing. Of course, everything worked as it should, since, well, it's just another Linux, and .NET itself is compatible specifically with Red Hat Enterprise Linux as well. But after that, you have to provide the certification results. So that's pretty much a file that tool creates. And if they have questions, they will ask. They did have some questions. The Red Hat support, to which I provided some further information. I will fix something in that instance, and pretty much that was the end of it. I created the instance, the Linux virtual machine, actually in Azure. That's also what's documented, because, well, that looked like the easiest way to do that. I didn't want to create a virtual machine locally or anything like that.
Thank you.
Good. My screen again, just to show one text. Harvest, update, questions. What do we need to say tomorrow? I won't say morning because for this afternoon, probably to be morning.
I don't think there's much updates to share. Except that we have now like more than 160 signups, so that's awesome. And yeah, everybody should have got the information that they need to post the speakers, post the attendees. So we should be all set.
Yeah, I sent an email to Victoria. I was super confused because in my Outlook calendar, it appears from 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. for my time, okay? And so it's 1 p.m. UTC, but if I calculate it using that thing, for instance, UTC 1 p.m., okay, that's that, right? So actually it's like this, say 6 a.m. So my calendar says 5 a.m., but this one says 6 a.m. It's like the invitation I got from the organization links doesn't update at the same time. So I'm a little worried about that someone might be confused between the two. So I'm not sure what. So this one I believe is right, like 1 p.m. UTC, 6 a.m. my time. I don't want to be late. But the calendar I have in Outlook when I got the invite starts at 5 a.m. but mentions 1 p.m. UTC. So it's right. Maybe Outlook.
Yeah, I have the same exact problem, by the way. My calendar, I just look at say 5. Yep, and it say at 5 a.m.
Yes,
and it should be at 6.
It is 6. Okay. Okay. So yeah, Outlook as a bug. Maybe.
Maybe it's not considering the daytime saving, the daylight saving.
Yes, but Outlook should know that. Like if you need a date and time UTC tomorrow, it says for you in LA it's 6 a.m. So yeah.
Yeah, I hope that's not going to cause issues to some people coming in late.
And yes, and
early.
I hope this site is right and Outlook is wrong. I believe this site, like I will start to show at, well, I will assume my start time is 6 a.m. I won't assume my start time is 5 a.m. So because I believe this site is right, like 1 p.m. UTC. So for instance, Zoltan, what time is it for you? Tomorrow at 1 p.m.
It's 3 in the afternoon.
Okay.
So that's 1 p.m. UTC.
It's 3 in the afternoon and
or Paris.
What time is it right now for you?
It's 9:45 p.m. So the Paris line is correct.
Okay, so
Sebastian, you are UTC -7, that's for sure.
So like if I remove Beijing and I add Budapest.
Yeah, we are UTC +2.
And I say tomorrow 1. To say 3 p.m. tomorrow for you. Okay, that's right.
It might be a good idea to open the meeting an hour early and just have a announcement. The meeting will start in about an hour.
Yeah, Outlook.
We can do a screen share with a time with a countdown maybe.
What kind of Outlook do you have, Mike?
Say that again.
What kind of Outlook? I'm using the web Outlook.
No, I'm using an older version, 2016.
That's weird. So that's weird. So it's not even so we have the same issue with 2 different Outlooks.
I really don't know. Also, Outlook Online shows the correct time for me.
That's okay. Okay.
Yeah, the correct time is at 6 a.m. That's the correct time.
Good.
But the calendar shows 5, so people are going to get a reminder if they're in the same time zone as us an hour early, and they will hop on. So if we can start the meeting early an hour and just have a countdown, at least people will be, they'll log in and they'll be aware of what's going on.
Yeah,
maybe it's just maybe it's just our time. Like if someone else opens it in Outlook, not in the Pacific time, maybe it will work.
I'm going to ask other people in a different time zone that I asked to join and see what their calendar shows up.
UTC -7. Okay, so also PDT, PST. It's PDT, so this site is correct. Like it's PDT, it says PDT. Yeah, Outlook is confused. Okay. That's a new deployment. Okay, that's awesome. That's great. Thank you. Okay. Good questions.
Well, I just asked my colleague. He's in Eastern time zone, and he should show up at 9, and it shows 8 for him. There's definitely a problem. Yeah, definitely a problem. We might want to start the meeting an hour early.
By the way, I got an update, I think earlier today, and I'm using the web version of Outlook. And at that time, it actually told me that it starts at 6 p.m. my time and ends at the next day at 2 a.m. in the morning. So that was also really weird, but the calendar appointment didn't update. So yeah, I was confused for a second. So I don't know. And it's actually telling me that it's the IST time zone. I don't know which one's that.
This is a mess.
Time is easy.
This should be some bug with Teams. It seems to me that the calendar invite is correct, but I will ask Vicky to join 1 hour earlier.
Did you see? I saw an article yesterday that was explaining an issue. Was on Twitter? I saw a Twitter thread about that. Maybe I found it on the camera. That in Lebanon, they changed the time zone. They decided to change the time zone, but only half of the officials had agreed with the time change. So part of the country services is using the old time zone, part of it is using the new one. So whenever you have to give an appointment to someone, you have to explain which time zone you are in, even if it's the same country, because not everyone agreed with the change. So it's a mess. Yeah, that issues.
So this meeting in Lebanon time zone.
Oh boy, they had to be. So I know all the conscious developers have to release new timetables, like database tables to update like meta time and everything, to update all the software that will deal with that. And they had to send, so it's a rare event when someone changes their time zone, and they had to send like 3 different versions in a few days or a few weeks of the database, because it changes all the time. Nobody agrees with what they want, so they have to handle that. Right. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So, done meeting. I won't take any more questions because I also need some time to be ready for tomorrow. So I'm not totally ready. Neither should you.
That's a shame.
It's a shame, right? Yeah. Busy weekend. Thanks everyone. Where is my teams? Thanks everyone. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
For the conference. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.